Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the most exciting and the most important chess tournament of 2026. I'm talking about the candidates. We've got 16 of the world's best players, and they are competing to win the candidates and then challenge the world champions Gukesh and Zhu and Jun, respectively, at the end of this year. We've got 2 rounds out of 14 in the book, and round 2 was very peaceful. There were 8 draws, but the games were combative. It was back and forth. All that is out of the window. Generally in the candidates, after a round of draws, a completely topsy-turvy and insane round follows, and round 3 was bananas, all right? Absolutely tragic mistakes, back and forth evaluations, crazy games, and a friendly reminder that you can pre-order my new book, How to Win at Chess Next Level, a signed autographed copy coming soon as well to Canada and Europe, so you don't have to, and really anywhere in the world, so you don't have to pay crazy shipping costs. Link was going to be in the description. I will be talking about this quite a lot. I'm very proud of that book. Here we go. So, we're going to kick things off with this game between Fabiano Caruana and Wei Yi, and you are not going to believe what you are about to see. You're not going to believe it. You are not going to believe it because, let me tell you something, I did not believe it when I saw this game. Fabiano Caruana has 1.5 points. He beat Hikaru in the first round, and then he drew Anish Giri. Wei Yi, pretty chill 2 games. So Fabi opens again with knight to f3, which is kind of shocking because Fabiano is one of the most aggressive players in the world when it comes to e4 and d4. He is a monster theoretician. And the opening went really weird because Wei Yi played knight f6. That's not why the opening went really weird. Then we got c4, and then we got c5. So we got a totally symmetrical game. Normal stuff. Now, generally, what happens next is that White tries to decide whether to play g3, bishop g2, etc., whether White plays the symmetrical d4, whether White plays the knight to c3, and I mean, Black generally is going to play knight c6, and nowadays, almost everybody under the sun is playing Queen's Gambit. That's what they do. They play e6, d5. So Fabi went g3, and here, Wei Yi must have surprised him a little bit because he mirrored him. So he deliberately went for the setup of c5 and g6. And the reason people go for c5 and g6 is to play the move d5 and play what's called a Grunfeld type of position against the queen's pawn, against the d4, c4, knight f3 business. If Black plays knight f6 and g6 and plays d5 virtually at any moment, the position resembles a Grunfeld defense, which nowadays is just not that popular. I mean, it used to be way more popular, but all right. So we have knight c3, Fabi toying with the move order, and Wei Yi plays d5 immediately, right? And here is when things get weird, because we have this trade, and Fabi now spends 5 minutes. The reason he spends 5 minutes, I think, I don't know, I have not spoken to him, is that he is deciding between playing the lazy and absent-minded move, bishop g2, you just continue with development, you don't care about anything. But this setup also allows h4, and this is what's called an anti-Grunfeld. And I mean, you basically just don't let your opponent play a position that you like. I like h4 a lot. I have played this move myself in classical chess and in blitz chess. And, you know, the knight is kind of kicked away from this side of the board. And then you try to play for h4, h5. There's also queen a4. There's also queen b3. There's a lot of weird moves. But Fabi just plays bishop g2. But he spends 5 minutes. And then it gets even more weird because in this position, of course, White now should continue with castles and right. Or even now you can play h4. Fabi now spends 21 minutes and 53 seconds on his next move, and he was sitting at the board. He didn't go to the toilet and, you know, have... Anyway, he spends a lot of time, and he plays queen a4 check, and I think this is the point of this setup being slightly, in quotes, inaccurate from Black's perspective. Black now has to block the check, and immediately White has a combination. So Wei Yi plays knight c6, and now we see knight g5. And I think Fabi thought that, well, I'm putting pressure with this bishop, so this knight can't go anywhere. Like if it goes to b4, I will play pawn to a3, and I've got pressure over here. Now, most people here historically play pawn to e6. That activates the queen attacking the knight and also defends the center like this. Wei Yi plays knight b6. So clearly, without thinking, he just gives away the pawn on c6. It's actually a whole lot worse than that. After takes, Wei Yi is losing a second pawn. He is not losing the rook. He wouldn't even be losing it if the knight wasn't there. But after this, Fabiano Caruana has a 2-pawn advantage. So Wei Yi has blundered 2 pawns in the opening. No, he hasn't. This is clearly prep. Hence the 36.5-minute time advantage, right? But why would you do this? Why would you play like this? Well, black is going to rely on the bishops. He's got the 2 bishops. Black is going to rely on the fact that white has given up a light squared beast. So castling, white is going to have a weak king. Actually, it's even worse than that, because after you kick this knight out and then attack the queen and then go here, white can't even castle. So when I saw this and I saw the time situation and I saw Fabi spend another 16 minutes on his next move, I was like, okay, this is really bad. Wei has Fabi firmly in his preparation. I mean, Wei is a very solid player. He plays the Petrov with black. He plays the symmetrical Queen's Gambit with black, the semi-Tarash. I mean, this is pretty wild that Wei just shows up. He's about to take Fabi's head clean off. Fabi plays Queen b5 check after 16 minutes, down 50 minutes in the opening. Queen b5 is a nice move. The point is to kind of mess around with black's coordination. King f8 prevents black from castling, so he can't really fully enjoy the benefits of the compensation being down 2 pawns. His king would be in the center, the rook wouldn't be able to get out. Queen d7 is not really the move you want to play. Like, you're 2 pawns down, so you want your most powerful piece on the board because that way you use it to attack. Going back with the bishop, not the worst, but, you know, obviously got to go back with the knight. That's what Wei does. He goes back with the knight. And now Fabi has to play this really ugly and sad move, rook g1. I mean, you really don't want to play that move. You don't. It stops bishop g2, but, I mean, you're never castling. I mean, your king is just going to be stuck in the center now. Now, here, black can play the move h5, which prevents white from playing g4 and trapping the bishop. Black can also leave with the bishop and basically say, well, you know, I made you play that move, and yeah, you can't castle. Wei plays a very natural move. He's like, well, I haven't castled. I'm going to castle. Now, apparently, castling is straight up a mistake in this position. Not a huge mistake, but the engine wants the bishop to escape and then claims that the best thing that can happen is a repetition because black will leave with the bishop. White is going to try to put the king on g2 to kind of castle. Black will come back with a check, and you will literally repeat. Like, kind of wild. Wei goes here, and after g4, your bishop's not getting out. And now, the game is really strange because black is down 2 pawns. I have said that several times. When you are down 2 pawns, the onus, not the anus, the onus is on you to prove that the 2-pawn disadvantage is not fatal. You have compensation. So your compensation is a form of peace activity, counterplay against the king. But Fabi's about to win his bishop. Like, the time to act is now. The best plan, apparently, in this position is knight to f6. Attacking this pawn, forcing it to maybe push forward, and then you try to escape with the bishop at that very moment. Wei plays rook c5. Rook c5 is given a big question mark by the computer. It's not quite a question mark move, but it's not the best move. And after this, Fabiano sets up Wei. Like, he is eyeing that bishop. So he's basically in a situation where, like, if the knights can get out of the way and rook g3 is going to happen, he's just straight up going to win. Like, rook g3 is going to, I mean, he's winning. So now Wei has a final moment to play this move, knight f6. If he doesn't play this move now, he's going to come under a massive attack. There are some other options here, but in general, the way you have to deal with rook g3 is the move pawn to h5. That's generally the move. Pawn to h5, if rook takes bishop, would hit the knight and the rook. So it's like, it's all about this bishop. It's all about this bishop. It's all about this bishop. Why am I saying that over and over? Because Wei now spends 21 minutes and plays knight e5, which loses the game on the spot. He misses a tactic, and it's not a blunder of a positional. No, he loses the game on the spot. He played knight e5 to try to liberate his position, and after knight takes e5, his idea was to take with the rook. Because if the bishop takes, knight e4 wins material. That's pretty simple. They both see that. What he missed is that after rook e5, there is knight to d1. Now, if you had gone knight to b1, then there would be ways to target this bishop, for example, like queen c8 or rook c5. And the bishop would be rescued because it would be a double attack here. Wei misses knight to d1. The bishop is dead. Black resigns. This is unfathomable. It is unfathomable. Wei never makes mistakes like this, ever. His World Cup run was crazy. He's won Tata Steel. Wei took a side quest to go to university. Like, he didn't play chess for like 4 years. 2750, perennial top 10 player in the world. It's only because they are in the candidates that a mistake like this happens. This would not happen in any classical tournament. Any. The candidates is crazy. But this is such a punch to the gut for fans of Wei Yi. I predicted Wei Yi wouldn't win the tournament, but I did not expect this. Now, here's the good news when you lose a game like this. Like, there is some good news, which is your worst nightmare already happened. Everybody in the candidates is stressed. Nobody wants to make a fool out of themselves. People want to win the tournament. They want to chase the world championship. So when the worst happens, and it happens early in the tournament, you still got 11 games, it's actually not that bad. Fabiano Caruana's got 2.5 out of 3. Fabiano Caruana gave all fans of Fabiano Caruana a heart attack in the first round of the tournament by almost not winning against Hikaru. Now he just gets it delivered on a silver platter, 2.5 out of 3. Good game by him. It was a little bit stressful. He's winning the tournament. Insanity. Can you believe it? Because I can. When I saw this on the screen, I was like, what? Now, the next game that I have for you, a game where somebody also won. Spoilers, but a game where, it was nothing like the previous game. So, we have d4 from Pragg. By the way, both these guys already won in the tournament, right? Sindarov beat Esipenko, and Pragg beat Hikaru Giri. Sindarov's win, a little bit dicey, but then he had a good position against Bluebaum. Pragg, Wei Yi was a battle. But Pragg opens with d4, showing that he could play e4, he could play d4, he could do whatever he wants. All right, we have Queen's Gambit declined. Back in the day, people would play Knight f6, back in the day, people would play d5, e6. Now they play Knight f6, e6. Javahir Sindarov sending, us back to the 1970s, 1960s, when this is the way they used to play the Queen's Gambit. Knight c3, bishop e7. This position was popular like literally 50 years ago. It's pretty hilarious. 20 years ago. And this is a Queen's Gambit with bishop f4. Now, bishop f4 was surveyed many, many times in the World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana in 2018 in New York. Castles, e3, c5. This is a very aggressive and forcing line. And after takes, a3. Historically, I do believe black would play knight to c6 and then queen a5 and, go for a counterplay with rook d8, rook e8, e5. Like, these are the positions. Black plays queen a5, puts the rook on one of these files, tries to push these pawns. That's the way that we play. So all of this has been played before. And now we have queen c2. So Pragg's showing what his prep is. If you check the opening database here, again, queen a5, rook e8, all these moves have been played before. Oftentimes white long castles here. It's very dynamic. Rook e8 is the move that Javahir chooses, and he wants to play e5, d4. I mean, that's basically what black wants to do. Now, there are many moves here. The move that Pragg chooses, I don't think is particularly popular. We can check the opening database. Yeah, I mean, it's a move. The move is bishop g5. So he pins the knight, and Javahir plays d4. So he just follows up with the typical idea. The best move here for black is actually bringing the bishop back, but Javahir's like, I don't want to go backwards. Everything that I did in my position, I set up to play forward. I want to go forward in the position. So we have bishop takes f6. He takes. Now we have a fork of the queen and the bishop. Queen goes here, pinning the knight to the queen and also defending the bishop. And it's a very sharp position because, Pragg here can play very natural move, bishop d3, which lines up the bishop and the queen against the queen, although there's not really any clear threat there because you can't really move the knight anywhere useful. But that's like the way you can play this position. But Pragg plays b4. Now, b4 looks like a very normal move because the bishop has to retreat. It can't go here. Well, actually, it could. I was thinking there's a fork, but then you would lose your queen. So you could go here, but the better move is bishop to e7. So b4, very natural move, pushing the bishop back. But Javahir does not push the bishop back. He plays a move that breaks every opening principle. Breaks every principle, frankly. He sacrifices his knight. He gives away a knight for 2 pawns. Giving away a knight for 2 pawns or a bishop for 2 pawns, it is a thing. It happens in a lot of different positions. Generally, it happens near a castled king. You give away a knight for 2 pawns and the king's wide open. In this case, you give away a knight for 2 pawns and you just say, check to the king. Now, I always say, try not to sacrifice pieces unless you have 2 more attacking pieces than they have defenders. That's not the case here, boys and girls. That's just There's no piece. There's no other pieces. White is going to go bishop d3 and king e2. He's going to super chill out. But it's not so simple. So you got to go king d1 because you want to keep your bishop movable, right? And now he plays d takes e3. So for the moment, Sindarov got 3 pawns for that sacrifice bit of material. Pragg could play fe. The problem with fe is black has a very emphatic move incoming, a move where the tides are going to turn very quickly. Black is threatening to play b5. What the heck is b5? b5 is a tempo-winning move. It hits the pawn on c4, and if you take it, I then get my bishop out, and my rooks will come to c and d. And guess who's on d? Yeah, it's bad. Bad when the king's on d. He's going to get hit straight down the middle with the rooks. He's not going to have enough time to scramble out of there. It's just a game of tempo. It's a game of white needs 1, 2, 3 moves, and black needs 1, 2 moves, or maybe 3 moves. Who's going to get to safety first, right? Pragg is thinking. Pragg plays bishop d3. So he's just going to go king e2, and his king is going to be chilling out. Javakir plays a very smart move. Queen g6, epic move. Directly in the line of fire here, but there is nothing you can do. Because if I play knight to d6, looking to win this, you just take the pawn. And you hit my rook, you hit my knight, and then you're threatening maybe even a checkmate because the bishop and the pawn swarm my king. So at this moment, Pragg needs to come up with a clutch move. He takes the pawn. The queen guards this. Now, this is a completely unbelievable position. Black is down a full piece for just 1 pawn. Black does not have sufficient counterplay here. But he does. Somehow the mechanics of this very peculiar position work out because it's not about material, it is about king safety. There has never been a clear example of material versus king safety because after the move f5, you just go back like, where is black's play? The king is the problem. Black actually has enough time to get these pieces into the game, and Javakir realizes this, and that is why Pragg is suddenly in the tank. Javakir plays bishop to c3, bishop c5, I'm sorry. He could have played a5, bishop c5, not the most accurate move. Pragg now needs to reverse. He needs to flip the position. He needs to go e4. He's got to push back. He's up material. He needs to play e4. It's counterintuitive because you don't want to open the center with your king in the middle. And then black will play queen f6, target the rook, bring this rook, b5, bishop b7. And now Pragg blunders. Pragg makes a mistake. He plays queen c3. His idea was that you cannot take the pawn because of various tactics, like I'm going to, put a knight on e5, I'm going to play rook e1. And he completely misses a ghost move here, a move that doesn't look possible. e5. That move does not look possible. It just looks like you take it, but then you would pin your knight to your queen, and queen f6 would win your knight. And suddenly, the momentum of the game completely shifts. The bishop goes back. The pawn goes forward. The knight covers up the king. Rook d8. Look at this. The king is scrambling. I mean, literally, the king is running across the board, desperately trying to survive. The king's gone to e2, d1, c1. He's running across the board. Another clutch move from Sindarov, queen to g5. And the idea is to hit this pawn, but also to zip back to e7. Brilliant coordination here. He's looking at bishop b4. He's looking at bishop a3 ideas, right? He's still looking at b5. He's still going to open up that side of the board, bishop e6, rook c8, rook d8. White is up a piece. How can he be so much worse? How can it be so dangerous? Rook e2, the bishop hits the queen. The queen slides back to b2. Here comes a5. a5 defends the bishop forever and ready to bring in the second rook. White has no counterplay. Pragg is looking for something. He plays knight to b3. Here comes rook a6. The knight tries to block the middle of the board. Now Javakir should just chill out with g6. He should not leave this diagonal, but he does. And Pragg has 8 minutes on the clock. This is move 27. Keep in mind, they only get their bonus time on move 40. So Pragg has 8 minutes to navigate this position. He spent too much time trying to defend himself. The only move in the position, he finds it, king b1. But suddenly, Javakir Sindarov opens up another front of attack. It looks like the king is safe. But you know who's not safe? The other side of the board. Javakir is going to play h5, h4, maybe h3. He's going to try to break things apart over here. The king finally makes it out alive. This game has so many twists and turns. Here comes h4. The knight has to scramble back to the first rank. The bishop finally moves. The bishop moves. And now, apparently, it's all good for Pragg here, maybe. But he plays rook d1. He's still trying to bring more pieces. Both guys have 5 minutes to make 10 moves, or they lose on time. Rook c8, positions in the balance. Knight to d2 from Pragg. Rook to b6, opening up a potential attack against the queen. And Pragg goes for counterplay at the worst moment. Pragg needs to continue to chill, but he rolls the dice with c5. But the idea of c5 is that after bishop c5, there is some sort of counterplay. Bishop b3 check, queen, rook, etc. It's actually a mistake. Bishop takes c5 is winning now for black, but he goes here. What could possibly be the idea? Queen b3 check, that was the idea. King h8, and queen f7. He goes for counterplay, but he's losing. He is losing the game here. He makes a blunder. He completely misses the sacrifice of the rook. Rook takes e2. Pragg blunders in time trouble. The knight was defending the bishop and the e6 square, and it's overloaded. You cannot take on c2. You can't do this. Bishop e6, insanity. Pragg gave up on playing defense. He was like, I gotta go for something. I gotta go for counterplay. He rolls the dice with c5, and everything falls apart. Now he loses the bishop. He loses this. Bishop d2. He's down a bunch of pieces. At the end of the game, he is down 4 pawns, and he resigns. And Fabi Sindarov is winning the candidates with 2.5 out of 3. I predicted it. Go watch my tier list video. I know we're early in the tournament. We still got 11 rounds. I predicted it. If there was one guy that's going to win this tournament, and I actually would not be that shocked, even though he's an underdog, it's Sindarov. Sindarov is now up to number 8 in the world. 2,753. Number 8 in the world. Bro's got 2.5 out of 3. And as if the tournament wasn't scripted enough, in round 4, Fabi Sindarov will play Fabiano Caruana, the tournament leaders. Hopefully it's not a boring draw where they just try to maintain their lead on the tournament. 2.5 out of 3 is absolutely crazy. Fabi has a chance to put away the young Sindarov, push him back, and take a full point lead against the rest of the field, only 4 rounds into the tournament. And Sindarov has a chance to do the impossible. Now, we move on. Nakamura, Giri, a battle of the previous generation. These guys have met each other in many elite tournaments. The last time they played a classical game was 2019. And before that, I think it was like 2017 or 16. So very different career trajectories. Obviously, Hikaru focusing more on content creation and rapid and blitz, and opens with c4. And we get a reverse Sicilian. A little bit surprised that instead of c4, e5, Anish forced Hikaru to show what he's going to play. Knight f6 is a very flexible move, but I mean, generally, you know, you could just play e5 on the first move. Then he plays e5, and we have this position. Now here, the main line historically was g3 and bishop g2 in the English. Recently, it's been e3. There's other lines like d3, like a3. I've played d3. I've played e3, etc. I've also e4. e4 is a move. He goes d3, which is funny. This is funny. Why is this funny? Because now we are playing a reverse Sicilian, and after, you know, white plays e4 and maybe a3, it almost looks like a Najdorf Sicilian. Technically, the type of Sicilian that is currently being played is a classical Sicilian, technically, because in the Najdorf, this knight stays back here for a while, and you play like this. Hikaru plays e4, so the game gets into fresh territory very quickly. Anish plays a very interesting move, just moves the knight back to where it was. This might be counterintuitive to people who are watching this that are, you know, beginners, because you would think you need to trade or make progress, but now it's all about that square. Black's going to play bishop c5. Black is going to trade the bishop for the knight to lose control over this square. That's exactly what happens. Bishop e3, queen d7, and Anish just trades and puts the knight here. And that's the end of the game, ladies and gentlemen. We will move on to the next game. You think I'm joking, but yeah, I mean, Hikaru tried to make some improvements to the position. Anish just sat with the bind in the middle of the board. Both guys made a couple more moves. There are some more details and nuances, but yeah, I mean, it all came down to the square. Bishops like open space, and white's bishops have literally the opposite of that. They have no open space. All right, they are renting a closet in New York City, and they are paying an exorbitant amount of money for that closet. Like, yeah, these pieces can't get out, and black can't really do anything either. The computer always said black had a slight advantage, but yeah, Hikaru ended up trading one of the bishops for the knights, and, you know, Anish advanced on the queen side. Anish always had a slightly better position, but this is not a position that a player is ever really going to push for a win at this level, and the boys traded their pieces, got a totally symmetrical position. Losing this position for either color would not only be impressive, I would literally report this game for match fixing, because it is impossible to lose a game like this at the 2780, 2810, 2750 level. And the game ends in a draw. I have to say, it has been a peculiar start to the candidates for Hikaru, because in the first game of the tournament, I was very back and forth, and he started really strong in that game, and then he kind of misevaluated the danger of the position, and then right at the end, he actually saved it. the game against Esipenko was, he was under pressure, but he held. And then he got nothing in this game, We're still, like, fans of Hikaru are still waiting to, like, you got to get going, in this tournament, because Fabi's got 2.5. Hikaru only has 1. Right? Like, it's early days, but you have to rack up points somehow. So very curious to see what's going to happen in the next rounds. Hikaru will have to start taking more risks with black. That's just the way that these tournaments go. Still 11 games to go. Draw in this one. Blue Bomb versus Esipenko, a matchup of two players with, I would say, similar styles. Esipenko probably has a higher ceiling overall because he's a little bit younger. He's already been above 2,700. He beat Magnus Carlsen. He's the only player in the field with a positive score against Magnus Carlsen with a whopping 1-0 with maybe one draw in there. Now, Matthias Bluebaum plays a Queen's Gambit Declined, the opening that he literally plays all the time. Esipenko does not take huge risk. He could, but he just goes Bishop E7. He plays exactly how he played against Sindarov. So this is following their exact game. Sindarov played like Bishop E2, H3, etc., or Bishop D3 he actually played, and, Black went C4. In this game, Bluebaum just takes. So he obviously looked at what Esipenko was going to play. Esipenko played it anyway because it's the Queen's Gambit Declined. Like, somebody knowing you play the Queen's Gambit Declined does not solve, everything. Bishop E2, Knight C6. They developed all their pieces. H3, Bishop B1. And, from the opening, White just has a slightly more pleasant position. Rook E1 is a move. White here, the most ambitious is Queen A4 and Rook F to D1. That is what the computer recommends, and then you try to put a knight on d4, and after a trade, you try to outplay your opponent in the symmetrical structure, where your bishop is a little bit better. You can kind of envision a situation where this bishop and queen, they go like this, and then you, take the knight, and then you checkmate the opponent, if you're, 1,400. If you're double that rating, that's probably not going to happen. But what happens in this game, it really confuses me. I completely don't understand. So Bluebaum now, again, can play for knight d4, but he just goes here. And the idea of Rook E2 is very simple. He wants to play Rook D2, but Black gets to play D4. You might remember the Sindarov game. Black plays D4. You liquidate the entire position, basically. And, this is the position after 25 moves. And there is no game here. No game is happening. I'm not sitting here saying I would do better, but there was no game. There was no game, really. And actually, right here, the computer deemed that Black's position was minus 0.7, which, if Magnus was on the other side, he would probably buckle down, buckle into the seat and try to, really, really grind this down and everything. The best move here is knight to d5. So you try to get to a position where your rook and bishop are just more active and your king is much closer to the middle, and the computer really strongly prefers Black's position, but Esipenko plays there, and that is not the move that pushes the advantage all the way, and this is just a draw. So you trade too many pieces in these endgames, the game just peters out, even though Black is more active. Yeah, just a draw. So Bluebaum, 1.5 out of 3 draws. Esipenko lost in the first round to Sindarov, then he drew Hikaru, then he drew Bluebaum, so he and Hikaru still have 1 point, but there's only so many games you can play where you get nothing games. Unless you're just trying to finish with 7 points. So Bluebaum is still on pace for a Bluebaum sweep in the form of 14 draws. So 3 out of 14 draws are down. He could still win the tournament if he wins the next 11 games, which I know is a meme of the comment section. Okay, so Fabiano Caruana and Javakir Sindarov are winning the tournament. Right, we don't have a single person with 2 points because the 3 people that won in the first round, which are Fabiano, Sindarov, and Pragg, nobody stabilized after that. So you would only be able to have 2 points if you won a game and made 2 draws, and nobody won a game and made 2 draws. So it's 2.5 and then 1.5. And that's already crazy because after the next round, somebody could have 3.5 points. Somebody could be winning the tournament by a full point, which is mind-blowing. All right. Let's head on over to the women's field. The first game that I'm going to show you is the appetizer game, and the rest of the games are completely insane. So the first game was an Italian between Vaishali and Anna Muzychuk. This should have been Vaishali and Hampi Konaru. But it was an Italian where both players very early traded 3 sets of minor pieces. Black has the double pawns. White has bishop for knights. Sometimes in some universe, you can imagine a situation where you generate an attack. This is not that universe. Muzychuk immediately goes to trade off her d-pawn. You can take this, but it's just going to fall. You're not going to be able to defend that pawn. c4, there's always passant. After rook a1, c5, you know, we got this position. Actually, here I like White's position. I like the open f-file. I like the open f-file. The bishop can move. The queen can go to h5. In blitz, I would imagine White can win this about 70% of the time. I think the plan for White is very easy, but this is not blitz. This is the candidates. And so after f6, knight e5, Black just establishes a very comfortable position. Again, White gets typical play, but because Black has enough time here to just defend herself, you know, ultimately, if you cannot get something from the opening, you get a position like this. Even though Vaishali is a pawn up, queen g3, nice move. Very well timed. Rook c2 isn't coming. Black has a lot of activity here. It's difficult to actually scramble out of the way and move this pawn. She tries. I mean, she can maybe play queen d7, but then there's always rook c2 problems. Actually, I think queen d7, rook c2 is a nice way to lose. You just lose. It's mate. So you could lose this position. Queen g4, I don't take with the queen. I take like this, and then it's mate. So, yeah, that would be a nice way to lose. She doesn't find the way to lose. She is not a Gotham subscriber. And instead of that, total symmetry. I said appetizer game, and that's it. I mean, it's a draw, right? Vaishali, 3 draws to start. Muzychuk, 3 draws to start. The women have had all draws so far. Kind of crazy. Until now. Until now. We are moving away from the draws. Zhu Jiner Bibisara Asobayeva. Here we go. e4. c5. Sicilian. Rossalimo. d6. Provoking White into taking. Nowadays, White doesn't even take. White just goes here, Black plays bishop d7, and now White plays rook e1, and then voluntarily moves the bishop back to the home square because it has nowhere else to stand. If you take on c6, Black goes here with pressure. If you go here, you're just going to get walloped. So you go back to f1. All of this has been played before. And now, if you ask a 2,000 and below rated player, maybe even 2,400 and below, how should Black continue their development? e6, bishop e7, castle, obviously, or rook g8. Rook to g8, the same move that Fabi had to play in his game, right? Looking for g5 ideas, g4, all this stuff. Rook g8, you're trying to checkmate your opponent. d3 stops g5, so she plays h6, and she's just trying to play g5, g4. It's kind of insane. The position's still equal. Like, you can completely play like this nowadays. It just works. You can play like this. b4, what a move. Zhu Jiner showing that she has completely prepared this and understands this idea. And if you take with the pawn, you lose central control. If you take with the knight, which looks also very natural, you still lose central control. I'm still going to go d4. And I'm going to try to take and play e5. So, Black takes with the c-pawn. Now she gambits another pawn. She tries to completely clear off that side of the board because if b takes a3, you take back, you get quick development, then you strike back in the middle because Black's king now will be stuck in the middle. Bibisara plays b3, trying to give away the pawn on her own terms. White plays knight b2, so nobody's taking a pawn. Nobody wants the pawn. All right, we have g5 now. She's playing g5, and she's playing g4. So she's just going straight for the kill here with Black. White plays pawn takes g4, bishop g4. When you play like this, you risk everything. And after bishop b2 and White stabilizing the center, things are going to get dicey for Black. Not only dicey, they're going to get really difficult. d5, and I think Bibisara here might have overlooked or underestimated the counterpunch c4. And now you're in serious trouble. So c4, there is no en passant, because the pawn is not standing next to you. So this pawn is going to fall, and that pawn's going to fall, and I'm attacking this. So Black has to make a move here. She takes on e4. Knight takes e4. Takes. She has to play bishop f5, and the rook goes back to e3. White's position is completely fantastic. Black's king is stuck in the middle. White is going to go d5, c5, d6, take this pawn, double the rooks, deliver checkmate. Black has absolutely no attack at all. None. Zero. But she does have bishop c2, which defends the b3 pawn, and messes up with White's position a little bit. Queen c1 is not the best move, but it's a good move. Rook c8. But now the computer is like, yo, you put the queen on the wrong square. You got to put it like there. White goes d5. So with the queen not participating in the middle of the board, the queen needed to be here, and this rook needed to be here. Black plays knight a5, and now White suddenly has to defend. And we saw in the Pragg game, when you are forced to defend a passive position like this, bad things happen. Rook g4 out of nowhere. That rook is not even attacking the center, the king anymore. It's attacking over here. So bishop e5, but bishop e5 allows h5. And suddenly, Bibisara's dark square bishop is coming in, and yeah, it's about to absolutely shish kebab that entire diagonal. Bishop h6 is going to be a severe problem. So, queen b2 gets out of the way. Here comes the bishop. White is still holding on. She's going to give away the rook. Why is she going to give away the rook? Because the black king is really weak in the middle of the board. Knight takes c4, sacrifices the knight. Knight takes. She gives away the rook, and now we have opposite colored position. These bishops, but just like the Hikaru game, the opposite colored bishops in the first round, Fabi, Hikaru, opposite colored bishops benefit the attacking player. So whoever is going to land the successful attack first is going to be the winner here. d6, she's going for it, but e6. And now she goes bishop h2. She retreats. Shouldn't have retreated. If she was going to retreat, bishop g3 would have been a little bit better to prevent a queen infiltration, or rook f3 to try to continue the attack. She goes here. Here comes Bibisara. The opposite colored bishops benefit the attacking player, right? g2 is just falling. It's collapsing. Like you got problems over here. You got problems over here. Queen can always centralize as well. And not only that, the endgame is really difficult. Bishop e4. Mate. Rook c2 is coming. f4 going for counterplay. The rook sacrifice. Rook c1. You can't take it. The queen is defending g2. So you got to go here. Here comes queen h4. Rook h3. Rook h1. She gets this. Queen e3. Queen f2. And the endgame is just winning for black. Black is up 2 pawns. Black is up 2 pawns. She makes a couple more moves, a4, and white resigns. Why does white resign here? Why did white resign? b4 is coming. That's it. b4 is coming. Not only is b4 coming, you can't stop the move b4. Because if you play bishop c3, it looks like, oh, black can't make any more progress. She can. First of all, she can take this. b4 is still possible. If you take, I promote. If you take, I get my 2 pawns. I play b2, so you cannot get to b1, and I win. Completely insane game, and Bibisara on the board. Huge win with the black pieces. And the roller coaster continues, because in this game between Tan Zhongyi and Katerina Lagno, yeah, just watch. Okay, e4, e5. Italian, normal, typical. White gets d4. Now, c3, d6 is a sideline. It's a huge sideline because you play c3, the player usually plays knight f6 hitting your center pawn, and you have to play d3 because otherwise your center pawn is under attack. Lagno plays d6, so she completely allows d4. And it's clear that she's trying to play a side variation where she gives her opponent the entirety of the center, and she's trying to take the game into slightly uncharted territory with maybe knight f6 and maybe some knight b4 business. So let's see what happens. So white plays knight c3, knight f6, plays queen d3. Tan Zhongyi completely prepared. So she plays queen d3, she sidesteps this pin, so bishop g4 loses a little bit of its impact, and also, after you move your dark squared bishop, maybe you can long castle. And that way you have some attacking possibilities. All right, but both players clearly prepared, although a little bit surprising here, black spends 16 minutes castling. I guess queen d3 might not be like the most common move, because I don't know anything about this position. I've never seen somebody voluntarily go into the La Bourdonnais variation. Yes, that's what it's called, named after, shocking, La Bourdonnais. Bishop g5, h6, knight goes here, and Katya plays d5. All right, like obviously completely thematic, normal position. White is going to have to take in the middle and get hit with some sort of rook e8 check, or maybe even queen e8 to kind of unpin yourself and jump in with the knight. White grabs, rook e8, king f1. Okay, now we know we're going to be on a roller coaster. White has an extra pawn. Black cannot possibly win the extra pawn back due to the pin. If you play g5, that's when I will sacrifice my knight for those 2 pawns, open up your king, and you will lose, like we already saw. So black plays c6, and white can't castle, so white's king is in the middle. Now we have takes and takes. White is just up a pawn. White's king is completely horrendously positioned. Black has counterplay, very similar to the Wei Yi game, except Katya is not going to lose the game in the next 5 moves to a piece blunder, right? Like, I mean, black's position, much more fruitful, much less dicey. So, rook to d1. Bishop goes to a6. Bishop takes. Knight takes a6, not the best continuation, so white has some advantage here, and she immediately launches her own counter attack, g4, rook g1, similar to other positions, g5, knight h5, and gets a really good position. But then she goes wrong. She needs to go g takes and queen g5, and for whatever reason, Tan Zhongyi, after playing all of this, goes here. She tries to make a preparatory move. She tries to play rook g4 and make some preparations, but suddenly the queen just hits the rook. And not only does the queen hit the rook, the queen comes to f5, and white doesn't ever get the counterplay anymore. as you are now immediately being counterattacked. I don't know what she obviously wanted to stop knight f4 stuff, but there was always g takes h6 ideas here, and then queen g5 she had. Very sharp position though. So queen goes to f5. Tan Zhongyi plays queen d3 looking for a trade. In comes knight e3. A beautiful move. White is in dire straits. If you take with a pawn, I play queen takes f3, but it's actually maybe the only move. King g1, you're going to lose material anyway. She takes. Queen takes this. The bishop has to come back. The queen takes a pawn. The rook has to come back and defend, and pawn takes g5. And Katerina Lagno goes from being a pawn down to being a pawn up. She just wins 2 pawns. She has the compensation, but she doesn't have the time. She has 5 minutes on the clock. And she's been in time trouble a few times in the tournament. So we have king g1. The bishop goes to c7, lining up an immediate diagonal attack. And for this phase of the game, Katerina just making improving moves, bringing the rook to the middle, trying to, avoid time trouble. She's in it, but she's trying to avoid, it getting any worse. And suddenly the tides completely shift as Tan Zhongyi gambles on her opponent's time with 40 seconds remaining, plays knight c6, things get a little bit tricky, and suddenly, not only is white back in the game, white is winning. White is winning because she can sacrifice the rook. Rook takes c7, and if you take, there is queen b8. And in the time trouble, Tan Zhongyi just gets a completely winning position. She's just straight up a bishop. She has an extra bishop now. But black has 2 extra pawns. Rook b6. b3, no counterplay. Queen b1, the king goes to h2, black goes f5. f5 is just kind of like a time trouble move. f5 is the last move of the time control before you get the bonus time. So she plays the move f5. Rook g5 wins. But it's not easy to see that because black's idea is rook h6. So she plays this, and the idea is rook h6. Rook g5 wins because after rook h6, you take with the knight. The knight is guarded by the rook and hits the... So rook g5, knight f5. Game over. She has 7.5. Actually, she has more time. She has more time to find this. So she's at the time control. She has the bonus time, but she goes here. And not only does queen f7 not threaten anything, well, there's really no threat. I mean, you're threatening to trade the queens, I suppose. But the point is that you can't take the knight because then you would get pinned. So she actually spends 4 minutes, and after rook f6, you have a huge problem on your hands because you can't take on f5, and you can't take the knight. You can't lose your queen. But that's actually the only move, according to the computer. You have to lose your queen. Rook g5, rook h5. She goes here. Now she's losing. Knight f4. Katerina Lagno is winning the game despite being down a bishop. What is going on? Knight f4 wins because rook h6. You sack the knight for rook h6. Unfathomable. Just crazy game because she had it on the time control. She had it. Rook g5, knight f5. But exhaustion kicks in, and all of a sudden, Katerina Lagno wins her queen. G4! G4! She sacrifices the queen and the king is boxed in. It's like freaking Tetris. Have you ever seen a position like this? White would be up a queen, a bishop, and a knight, but losing on the board. And I think this is probably what Tan Zhongyi had overlooked from a distance, because when are you ever up 14 points of material, but made it on the board? Completely unbelievable turnaround. She has to lose her queen, and she loses a pawn, and she just resigns. She's going to lose everything. Tan Zhongyi was up a bishop and was winning after the time control, but it all turns around. Insane comeback from Katerina Lagno. Katerina Lagno could have had 0 points, and she has 2 out of 3. She's been losing in every game. It's unbelievable. She's completely, just wild games, that Katerina, but she got 2 out of 3. Amazing stuff. And for the last game, this game, nothing too crazy. Katerina Lagno, Goryachkina, the other Russian superstar, plays the Rossolimo and builds up a beautiful position against Divya. She plays against these double pawns. I've played against this with black, and it is utterly miserable. Divya does her absolute best. I mean, she is trying to defend this position. The bishop sucks. The white knight is fantastic. It's really just a matter of time until the black position falls apart. And the evaluation bar is like a ski slope, except like cross country. You're climbing up the magic carpet. The evaluation is going to get bigger and bigger. And even though Divya gets a little bit of counterplay, she's just losing in this endgame. This is just a losing endgame. White is just going to build up her advantage. Typical Soviet school, like king e2, f3, king e3. She's completely winning. Rook c3, king f4. And now, white has to be precise here and convert the position. It's very different than the endgame that Hikaru and Esipenko were in, 3-on-3 with an extra pawn like this, because black's king is so weak. Except on the 65th move of the game, right here, instead of the move that she played in this position, the conversion is not so easy. It's not easy at all. In fact, somewhere even here, I think you have to go rook a8, rook b6, king f7, rook b7, then you run the king to f8. So you need a rook on a8 and a king on f8. That's the way you have to win this. Instead, she goes here, and rook a6 is a mistake because the pawns fall off the board now, and rook g4 saves the day for Divya. Divya comes back from a terrible position, and the reason this is just like fine is the pawn promotes faster than this pawn, and yeah, this took like 6 hours, 7 hours almost, but Divya Deshmukh saves the day. So she gets a clutch save after blundering a clutch save to Vaishali. Wild day, long recap, 45 minutes. Hope you are all enjoying the women, Bibisara and Katerina Lagno. Katerina Lagno could have legitimately had 0 points. Like, it's crazy. She got 2. She's winning. Dude, when you have the wings like that in the first few rounds, oh, she's going to have a good tournament. She's going to have a good tournament. You get a lot of momentum. And I said in the open, you know, we have Fabiano, we have Sindarov, we have Pragg, we have Bluebaum, and then half the field has won. Bluebaum, baby. 4th place, tied for 3rd in the candidates, as we all predicted. I know it's early days. That's all I have for you today. You can pre-order How to Win a Chess Next Level, and you can also get out of here.